You know exactly what you are called to do. You have seen it. You have felt it pulsing in your spirit in the quiet hours of the night when the noise of the world finally fades. God has given you a vision of your future that is so clear, so vivid, and so undeniably real that it has rewritten the very architecture of your desires. You can see the destination. You know what it looks like, what it feels like, and the magnitude of the impact you are meant to have. But when you open your eyes and look at your current reality, the disconnect is entirely paralyzing. You are standing in a life that looks absolutely nothing like the vision you have been given. You see the mountaintop with piercing clarity, but when you look down at your feet, there is no trail, no map, no bridge, and no visible way to get from where you are currently standing to where you know you are supposed to be. The resources do not match the revelation. Your network does not match your calling. Your present environment feels entirely too small to hold the weight of the assignment you carry inside you. And because you can see the end so clearly, the sheer impossibility of your present circumstances feels like a physical weight pressing against your chest. You are asking yourself how you are supposed to build a kingdom when you barely have enough bricks to build a wall. You are asking God why he would show you something so expansive, so beautiful and so heavy, only to leave you standing in a wilderness with empty hands. It feels like a cruel joke. It feels like a mockery. You wonder if perhaps you made it all up. You wonder if your imagination has simply run away with you, because if God really gave you this vision, why is your daily reality still so agonizingly ordinary? Why are you still fighting the same mundane battles, dealing with the same lack, and facing the same closed doors? I need you to hear me, and I need you to hear me with your spirit wide open, because what you are experiencing is not a malfunction. It is not an error in your spiritual reception. You have not made this up, and you have not missed your window. What you are living through right now, this agonizing, stretching, confusing space between the revelation and the realization, is the oldest and most necessary pattern in the prophetic history of the world. It is the signature mark of the chosen. God always shows the destination before he reveals the path. He always delivers the blueprint long before he provides the bricks. If you can see clearly where you are supposed to be, but you cannot see how to get there from where you are standing, you are not failing. You are in the exact position required for spiritual activation. The vision comes before the road. That is how it works. That is how it has always worked. You are standing in the gap, and the gap is where the chosen are forged. There is a specific reason this gap feels so painful, and it has everything to do with the warfare surrounding your calling. The enemy of your soul cannot reach into your spirit and steal the vision God has planted there. He does not have the jurisdiction to erase what heaven has decreed over your life. But what he can do, and what he has been doing relentlessly in this season, is attack your perception of the distance between the promise and your present reality. He whispers in the void. He points to your bank account, your lack of connections, your delayed opportunities, and the sheer ordinariness of your daily grind, and he says, look at this. Look at how small you are. Look at how stuck you are. If God had really called you to that massive work, you wouldn't be sitting here in the dark. He wants you to believe that the gap is proof of your delusion. He wants you to interpret the delay as a denial. He wants to exhaust you with the sheer distance between what you see in the spirit and what you hold in your hands. The lie the enemy is pushing on you right now is that your inability to see the path means you are disqualified from the destination. He wants you to downgrade your vision to match your current reality, because he knows that if you ever upgrade your faith to match your vision, you will become entirely unstoppable. He is trying to force you into a compromise, whispering that maybe you should just settle for a normal life, a quiet life, a predictable life, because the tension of holding a massive vision in a small circumstance is just too painful to bear. He wants you to look at the empty space between where you are and where you are going and conclude that you have been abandoned. But you have not been abandoned. You are being anchored. And to understand what is actually happening to you in this exact moment, you have to look at the pattern established in the life of Joseph Smith. I am going to take you to a very specific moment in restoration history, a moment that mirrors your current psychological and spiritual agony with breathtaking precision. Because what you are feeling right now, the heavy burden of a massive vision trapped inside a restrictive, painful reality, is exactly what Joseph Smith felt. The year is 1832. It is February. Joseph Smith is 26 years old. He is living in Hiram, Ohio, at the farm of John Johnson. Let me paint the picture of his current reality for you, because you need to understand the dirt he was standing on before you can understand the stars he was looking at. Joseph's life in February 1832 was characterized by extreme instability, poverty, and intense opposition. He did not own the home he was living in. He was relying on the charity of others. He had a wife who had already suffered the agonizing loss of children and who was currently caring for newly adopted twins, one of whom was deeply sickly. There was a rising tide of localized hatred brewing against him in the community, a violent, physical hatred that was actively plotting against his life. In just 1 month's time, a mob of men would break into that very farmhouse in the dead of night, drag Joseph from his bed, choke him into unconsciousness, rip his clothes from his body, and cover him in boiling tar and feathers, leaving him for dead in the freezing Ohio dirt. That was the reality of Joseph's daily life. It was gritty. It was dangerous. It was profoundly uncomfortable. He was standing in a reality that looked like failure, poverty, and imminent destruction. And yet, in the middle of this intense, localized pressure, Joseph and Sidney Rigdon were sitting in an upstairs room of that farmhouse, engaged in the work of translating the Bible. They came to the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verse 29, regarding the resurrection of the just and the unjust. And as they pondered this scripture, the physical walls of that freezing Ohio farmhouse seemed to dissolve, and the heavens tore open. What happened next is recorded as Doctrine and Covenants section 76, known simply in Restoration history as the Vision. But the word vision almost feels entirely too small for what actually occurred. God did not just give Joseph a comforting thought. He did not just give him a minor doctrinal clarification to help him get through a tough week. God pulled back the veil of eternity and showed Joseph the absolute culmination of the human story. Joseph and Sidney saw the glory of the Son on the right hand of the Father. They saw the holy angels. They saw the fall of Lucifer, the reality of spiritual warfare on a cosmic scale. And then God showed them the destination. He showed them the expansive, staggering, mind-bending reality of the degrees of glory, the celestial, the terrestrial, and the telestial kingdoms. They saw the vastness of God's mercy, a salvation so broad and so deeply architectural that it completely shattered the narrow, restrictive theology of the 19th century world. They saw the end of the road. They saw what it all meant, where it was all going, and the magnificent, glorious outcome of God's eternal plan for the human family. The vision was so heavy, so dense with light and information, that Philo Dibble, who was in the room watching them receive it, noted the physical toll it took. The power of it was absolute. It was an oceanic download of eternal reality. I need you to pause and look at the intense, almost violent contrast of that moment. Look at the gap. On the one hand, you have the vision of the degrees of glory, the ultimate destination, the celestial victory, the grand design of the cosmos, the triumph of light over dark. And on the other hand, you have Joseph Smith, 26 years old, broke, living in a borrowed room, with a sickly infant down the hall and a mob outside plotting to murder him. The gap between what Joseph saw in the spirit and what Joseph was living in the physical world was astronomical. It was completely absurd. If human logic were applied to that moment, Joseph could have cried out to God and said, "Why are you showing me the end of the universe when I don't even know how I'm going to survive next month? Why are you showing me celestial glory when my current reality is freezing dirt and angry mobs? How does seeing the highest heaven help me deal with the people who are trying to kill me right now? I don't need a vision of eternity, God. I need a map out of Hiram, Ohio. I need money. I need safety. I need to know what to do tomorrow." But God did not give Joseph a map. God gave Joseph a compass. And this is the profound doctrinal and spiritual truth that you must grasp right now, because it is the exact same thing God is doing in your life. God reveals the destination to build faith for the journey. He shows the whole vision before you are ready to live it because he knows exactly what you are about to endure in the middle. The vision of D and C-76 was not a taunt. It was an anchor. God knew that in just 30 days, Joseph would be spitting blood and tar out of his mouth on the frozen ground. God knew that Joseph would soon face the darkness of Liberty Jail, the betrayal of his closest friends, the agonizing expulsion from Missouri, and eventually the bullets at Carthage. God knew the path was going to be brutal, dark, and terrifyingly unclear at times. So before the darkness hit, God showed Joseph the light at the end of the tunnel. God essentially said, "Look at this, Joseph. Look at the celestial kingdom. Look at the glory that awaits. Memorize this destination. Burn it into your retinas. Because when you are covered in tar and when you are chained in a dungeon, the memory of this destination is the only thing that will keep you from quitting." The distance between the vision and the current reality is the exact space where faith operates. Faith is not required when the path is fully illuminated. If God had shown Joseph every single step he had to take between 1832 and 1844, Joseph might have been paralyzed by the pain that was coming. If God had given him the full map of the suffering required to build the restoration, the human mind would have shattered. So God didn't show him the pain of the path. He showed him the glory of the destination. He gave him just enough light at the end to pull him through the dark in the middle. That is what God is doing to you right now. You are looking at the gap between your vision and your reality, and you are interpreting it as a failure. You are thinking, I see the celestial destination of my calling, but I am stuck in the Hiram, Ohio of my circumstances. You are entirely frustrated because God showed you a massive kingdom, but he hasn't given you the instructions on how to survive your current week. But you have to understand the mercy in this method. God showed you the destination because he knows the exact nature of the warfare you have to walk through to get there. He showed you the end because the middle is going to require a level of endurance, grit, and spiritual stamina that you can only access if you know the outcome is guaranteed. The vision is not a taunt. God is not dangling a carrot in front of you just to watch you struggle. The vision is your survival gear. When you feel like you have absolutely no idea how to get from where you are to where you are called to be, you must realize that knowing the how is not your assignment. Your assignment is to hold the what. The path is God's responsibility. The vision is yours. The reason you do not have the steps is because you do not have the capacity yet to walk them. God is using the delay, the waiting, and the friction of your current reality to build the muscle you will need to actually carry the weight of the vision he showed you. If God teleported you to the destination right now, it would crush you. The version of you that currently exists is not yet strong enough to sustain the reality of the vision you carry. The gap is not a punishment. The gap is a forge. The delay is not a denial. The delay is a classroom. You are sitting in the space between the promise and the provision, and in this space, your character is catching up to your calling. Think about Sidney Rigdon in that room. After they saw the vision, Joseph looked over at Sidney. Sidney was pale. He was limp. He was physically exhausted, entirely drained by the sheer magnitude of what they had just witnessed. Joseph sat there calmly and observed. Sidney is not as used to it as I am. Joseph had built the capacity to hold the weight of revelation. Sidney was still struggling with it. The vision required a physical and spiritual capacity that had to be developed. You are in the process of becoming used to it. God is stretching your spiritual capacity. He is expanding your nervous system to be able to handle the velocity of what he is about to release into your life. The reason it hurts right now, the reason you feel so stretched and so frustrated, is because you are literally experiencing spiritual growing pains. Your current circumstances are the resistance training required to build the strength necessary to hold your future. You are a chosen one, and the mark of a chosen one is not that they have an easy, clearly marked path. The mark of a chosen one is that they can endure the darkest, most confusing paths because they have an unshakable memory of the light they were shown. You have been trusted with a vision that is bigger than your present life. That is an honor, not a curse. God looked at you and decided that you possess the spiritual integrity to hold a massive promise without demanding immediate gratification. He trusted you with the end of the story, knowing that you would have to walk blindly through the middle chapters. Stop apologizing for the size of your vision. Stop trying to explain it to people who only understand the present. You cannot expect people who have never left the ground to understand the aerodynamics of your flight. They will look at your life, they will see your lack, they will see your struggles, and they will tell you that you are delusional. They will tell you to be realistic, but realism is the language of the spiritually blind. You are not called to be realistic. You are called to be prophetic. You are called to pull the reality of your future into the present through the sheer gravitational force of your faith. Look at the pattern in the restoration. God told Joseph Smith in the sacred grove that his name would be had for good and evil among all nations. He told a 14-year-old farm boy with no education, no money, and no standing that his name would be known globally. The gap between that vision and the boy standing in the trees was comical. It was impossible. But God didn't tell Joseph how it would happen. He just planted the seed of the destination. God told Joseph to build a temple in Kirtland when the church was practically bankrupt. He gave the vision before he provided the funds. Over and over again, the pattern is the same. The revelation of the destination, followed by a seemingly impossible gap, followed by the miraculous provision of the path. You are in the gap, and I am speaking to you right now as a prophetic witness to tell you that the gap is closing. Not because your circumstances are suddenly rushing to meet you, but because you are finally growing into the person who can step into the vision. You are shedding the impatience. You are shedding the need to know the next 10 steps. You are learning to trust the compass instead of demanding the map. You are learning that God's silence regarding the how is an invitation to deepen your trust in the who. God is with you in the waiting room. He is with you in the freezing farmhouse. He is with you in the mundane, frustrating, seemingly useless days where you feel like you are making zero progress toward your calling. Every single day that you wake up and refuse to abandon the vision, you are taking a step toward it in the spirit. The enemy's whispering is getting louder because your activation is getting closer. The enemy only screams when he is about to lose territory. He is trying to get you to drop the vision right before the path opens up. Do not drop it. Do not shrink it. Do not negotiate with your current circumstances. Your current circumstances are temporary. Your vision is eternal. You must draw a line in the spirit right now and declare that you will no longer allow the dirt you are standing on to dictate your belief in the stars you have seen. You are a visionary who is being forged into a builder. The architect has given you the plans. The materials are on the way. Your only job right now is to prepare the ground, prepare your heart, prepare your mind, clean out the doubt, evict the imposter syndrome, silence the voices of pragmatism that are trying to kill your prophetic assignment. The time for waiting in agony is over. The time for waiting in expectation has begun. You are about to shift your posture from a victim of delay to an active participant in your own preparation. The vision was a down payment. It was a promise signed in the blood of the Lamb and sealed by the Spirit of the living God. What God has shown you, he will perform. He is not a man that he should lie. He is the author and the finisher, and he does not abandon the work of his own hands. You are about to step into an alignment so profound that the things that have resisted you for years are going to dissolve in front of you. But before that happens, you must settle the issue of the gap. You must make peace with the mystery of the path. You must look at the distance between where you are and where you are going, and instead of seeing it as a void of abandonment, you must see it as the sacred space of your own becoming. The gap is where your story gets its power. The gap is where your testimony is written. When you finally arrive at the destination, it will not be the vision that impacts people. It will be the story of how you navigated the gap. It will be the grit, the endurance, and the blind faith you exercised when you had nothing but a promise. That is what will give you authority. That is what will make you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You are earning your authority right now in the unseen spaces, in the quiet frustrations, in the daily decisions to keep believing when everything around you says to quit. I need you to gather your spirit. I need you to stand tall in whatever room you are in right now. I need you to feel the weight of the prophetic history of the restoration backing you up. You are walking in the exact same pattern as the prophets, the seers, and the revelators who went before you. You are part of a lineage of people who saw things that were not as though they were. You are a chosen one, and it is time to speak to the gap. It is time to speak to your present reality and command it to align with the truth of your calling. You are going to speak this out loud. You are going to release the frustration, and you are going to take ownership of the space you are standing in. Speak this with me. Let it echo in your room, let it resonate in your spirit, and let it register in the unseen realm as a binding declaration of your identity. I release the lie that my current reality is proof of my disqualification. I release the fear that I made up the calling on my life. God gave me the vision, and what heaven has decreed, earth cannot deny. I refuse to let the darkness of my present circumstances overwrite the light of the destination I have been shown. I understand the pattern of the chosen. I know that the blueprint comes before the bricks. I will not panic in the gap. I will not demand the map when God has given me the compass. The delay is not my denial, it is my development. I am expanding. I'm growing into the capacity required to hold the weight of my assignment. The waiting is not breaking me, it is building me. I will not shrink my vision to accommodate my current lack. I will stretch my faith to accommodate my future provision. I am a visionary, I am a builder, and I am anchored in the promises of God. The gap between my vision and my reality is not evidence that I am wrong. It is the space where my faith is being built into the capacity to hold what I have been shown.